Meet Rob, Sam and Ted. Ted is working on a film script, and Sam and Ted later joined him on the same script. Sometimes Sam makes some changes or adds to the script, and sometimes Ted changes something in the script. But this was leading them to a meaningless script, because they didn't have any record of what changes were made and when they were made or by whom they were made. Finally, they hired a man who will keep the record of all the changes and updates made. Git is a version control system. This basically means that Git is a content tracker. Just like the man hired by the 3 scriptwriters. The purpose of Git is to manage a project, or a set of files, as they change over time. Version control is a piece of software that helps teams or individuals manage their source code over time. It tracks changes in a project so that if something breaks while you are working on it or any updates made, you can compare the difference between the current project and a previous version of the project. Linus Torvalds, the developer of Linux, designed Git in 2005. When the relationship between the community that developed Linux kernel and the company that developed BitKeeper broke down, this led Linus Torvalds to develop their own tool based on some of the lessons they learned while using BitKeeper. This tool was Git. Let me tell you a secret. The in-joke was that I name all my projects after myself, and this one was named Git. Git is British slang for stupid person, words by Torvalds. There's a made-up acronym for it, Global Information Tracker, but that's really a backronym. These were the words of Linus Torvalds himself. Now we know that Git is a content tracker. So Git can be used to store content. And it is mostly used to store code because of the other features it provides. We will discuss that in the next session. Real-life projects generally have multiple developers working in parallel, just like the script writer's team. So they need a version control system like Git to make sure that there are no code conflicts between them. So, a version control system allows developers to revert and go back to an older version of their code. It allows you to have track of all the changes by different contributors to your project. Now you know what a Git is and its basic functions are. A repository is just a file location where you are storing all the files related to your project. In our case, a repository will contain code-based files. A repository in Git could be considered similar to your project folder. Git could track all the changes happening inside the folder. When various people collaborate on a project, it's hard to keep track of revisions. Like who changed what, when, and where those files are stored. GitHub takes care of this problem by keeping track of all the changes that have been pushed to the repository. Main concern is to keep track of things. Suppose you're working on feature A, nothing else should be affected by your unfinished code. What if it turns out the feature isn't necessary anymore? What if after 10 commits, you notice that you took the completely wrong approach? Imagine that, every time before moving your mouse, you'd have to wait for 5 seconds. It's quite annoying, right? With version control it's quite the same. We're also only talking about a few seconds per command, but Git, however, is very fast. Sometimes you make mistakes. The best about Git is that there's a little undo command for almost every situation. Correct your last commit because you forgot to include that small change. Revert a whole commit because that feature isn't necessary anymore. You can even restore deleted commits. Do you remember the man hired for keeping all the records for the writers team? He needs a place, an environment where he will do all the tracking work. Similar to that man, we have Git. And Git needs a place to host the repository or workplace for everyone. Here, GitHub comes into the picture. There are 2 ways you can host your repositories. One is online, that is on the cloud. And the second is offline, that is self-installed on your server. We will learn about the most popular Git hosting service. GitHub, owned by Microsoft. GitHub is a Git repository hosting service. It hosts the service for everyone like you host a party. And also provides a web-based graphical interface. It helps every team member to work together on the project from anywhere and makes it easy for them to collaborate. GitHub helps all the team members to stay on the same page and stay organized. Isn't it amazing? Now you know that GitHub allows you to keep both local and remote copies of your project. A project that you can publish it among your team members as they can use it and update it from there itself. But why is it so popular among the community? The repository is so large that it has 25 million users, which is actually more than the population of some country. It is the world's largest software development platform. Putting your project to a shared, public repository makes it instantly discoverable for those 25 million users. GitHub provides simply unmatched exposure and insights compared to any other platform. And you can easily discover code written by others, learn from it, and even use it for your own projects. Versions control on GitHub are very similar to MS Office or Google Drive. It tracks all the changes or updates made to your project and who makes them. You can always check the detailed changelog that neatly hosts all of the relevant information. GitHub is very easy to install and simple to work with. Installing GitHub on your operating systems. So, Dave is hired for keeping records of changes made by script writers. But where is he going to store the records? He needs a place for everything. Let's jump to repository. Repository comes for the rescue. You already know that. A Git repository is a virtual storage of your project. It allows you to save versions of your code, which you can access when needed. Dave needs storage or a place for storage. So a place will be assigned to him. Similarly, a virtual storage i.e. repository is assigned. But how? To create a new repo, we will use the git init command. Git init is a one-time command you use during the initial setup of a new repository. Executing this command will create a new Git. You got your virtual storage or repository ready and you know how it's done. What if you want the same repository on your local computer? Repository can be cloned just like the YouTube video you can download to watch it when you are offline. Step 1. Step 2. In simple words, git bash is a command line prompt for Windows. It allows users to type git commands that make source code management easier through versioning and commit history. The name itself tells what it means. Working tree is the area where you are currently working. It is where your files live. This area is also known as the untracked area of Git. One thing you should keep in mind is that the changes will not be saved until you explicitly save them. Any changes to files will be updated and seen in the working tree. To see what is in your working tree, run the command, git status. This command will show you two things. Do you remember Dave Wright? The man hired by the script writers team for keeping the records of updates and changes made. One day Bob, script writer, made some changes. What? The staging area comes in picture when Git starts tracking and saving changes that occur in files. That is about it when it comes to the staging area. You tell Git that I want to track these specific files, then Git moves them from your working tree to the staging area, where you can access it. On GitHub, saved changes are called commits. Each commit has an associated commit message. It is a description explaining why a particular change was made. Commit messages capture the history of your changes, so other contributors can understand what you've done and why. I guess you are aware of the word commit. The commit command is basically used to save your changes to the local repository. They are the core building block units of a Git project timeline. You can think of commits as snapshots or milestones along the timeline of your Git project. They are created with the git commit command to capture the state of the project at that point in time. You should know that Git snapshots are always committed to the local repository. There are two important commit commands. Now you're ready to save a copy of the current state of the project. You make changes with git add. After you're satisfied with the made snapshot, you commit it to the project history with git commit. Local repositories reside on the computers of team members. If you're the only person working on your project, chances are you'll never need to set up a remote repository. What if you want to share data with your teammates? Remote repository comes in the rescue. A remote repository in Git is a common repository that all team members use to exchange their changes. Every member can access the repository and make changes which everyone can access. In most cases, such a remote repository is stored on a code hosting service like GitHub or on an internal server. We have been working only in the local repository. Each developer will work in their local repository, but eventually, they will push the code into a remote repository. Once the code is in the remote repository, other developers can see and modify that code. I hope you remember how to create a new repository in GitHub. Now you have a local repository but want to convert it into a remote repository. Let's see how. Step 1. After creating a repository on Github, you will get a URL for your repository. Copy that URL. Step 2. Now to point your local repository to the remote repository, use the following command. In order to push all the code from the local repository into the remote repository, use the following command. This pushes the code from the master branch in the local repository to the master branch in the remote repository. What if Rob made some changes in the script and the next day Sam erased those changes to make his new update? This is going to be a big cause of anger for Rob when he gets to know. How are they going to solve this problem? You must be aware of the word branch or branching. Branch in general means either a large or a small division. Branching is the practice of creating copies of programs or objects to work in parallel versions, retaining the original and working on the branch or making different changes to each. Suppose you're working on a project. You're going to have a bunch of different features or ideas in progress at any given time, some of which are ready to go, and others which are not. Branching exists to help you manage this workflow. When you create a branch in your project, you're creating an environment where you can try out new ideas. Changes you make on a branch don't affect the main branch, so you're free to experiment and commit changes. This is also useful when we have multiple people working on a project. Each person creates a branch for the feature or bug fix they are working on, and when they are finished they merge it back into the master branch. What if you did some changes in your code stored in the repository? So, I guess you want your team members to get notified about it. Otherwise there will be some serious issue about you not informing them about it. But are you really going to mail them or text them about the changes made? Pull requests are a mechanism for a developer to notify team members that they have made some changes or completed a feature. Once their feature branch is ready, the developer files a pull request. This lets everybody involved know that they need to review the code and merge it into the master branch. So, the pull request is more than just a notification. It's a kind of discussion room for discussing the changes made. If there are any problems with the changes, teammates can post feedback in the pull request and even improve the feature by pushing follow-up commits. When you file a pull request, you're requesting that another developer pulls a branch from your repository into their repository. You need to provide 4 pieces of information to file a pull request. You need to provide 4 pieces of information to file a pull request. I guess you know combining something to form a single entity is what merge means. In Git, merging is a way of putting different history back together again. The git merge command allows you to take the independent lines of development created by Git branch and integrate them into a single branch. To be more specific, merging takes the contents of a source branch and integrates them with a target branch. Git merge will combine multiple sequences of commits into one unified history. In the most frequent use cases, git merge is used to combine 2 branches. Merge takes 2 commit pointers, usually the branch tips, and will find a common base commit between them. Once Git finds a common base commit, it will create a new merge commit that combines the changes of each queued merge commit sequence. Command. This command sets the author name to be used with your commits. Command. This command sets the email address to be used with your commits. The git config command is a convenience function that is used to set Git configuration values on a global or local project level. Command. The git init command is used to create a new blank repository. It is used to make an existing project as a Git project. Command. Git clone is a Git command line utility which is used to target an existing repository and create a clone, or command. Git add command is used to add all the local changes of your working copy to the staging area so that those changes can be committed to your local repository. Command. This command sets the author name to be used with your commits. Command. This command sets the email address to be used with your commits. The git config command is a convenience function that is used to set Git configuration values on a global or local project level. Command. The git init command is used to create a new blank repository. It is used to make an existing project as a Git project. Command. Git clone is a Git command line utility which is used to target an existing repository and create a clone, or copy of the target repository. Command. Git add command is used to add all the local changes of your working copy to the staging area so that those changes can be committed to your local repository. Command. The commit command is used to save your changes to the local repository. You have to explicitly tell Git which changes you want to include in a commit before running the git commit command. This command records or snapshots the file permanently in the version history. Command, git reset, file. Command, git reset, commit. Git reset is a powerful command that is used to undo local changes to the state of a Git repo. You can reset or undo changes or mistakes made if needed. Command, git checkout, branch name. In Git terms, a checkout is the act of switching between different versions of a target entity. Command git checkout b, branch name. This command creates a new branch and also switches to it.